Alright, Chapter 2 covers computer hardware. We're not going to go really in depth with this because I figure if you're interested in this, you would be a computer major. And if you're a computer major, you will get this stuff in several other classes. But the learning objective for the chapter is to understand how data is represented in a computer, identify the parts inside the system unit, explain how the CPU works, describe different types of storage systems, identify and describe input devices and output devices. So virtually all computers today are digital. Most digital computers are binary computers, which means they understand only two states represented by ones and zeros, and usually thought of as on and off. Consequently, all data processed by a binary computer must be in binary form. When you enter data into a computer, the computer translates the natural language symbols that you enter into the binary ones and zeros and then processes the data, and then translates and outputs the results in a form that you can understand again. The zeros and ones used to represent data can be presented in a variety of ways, such as with an open or closed circuit, the absence or presence of electronic current, two different types of magnetic alignment on a storage medium, and so on. Alright, regardless of their physical representations, the zeros and ones are commonly referred to as bits, a computing term derived from the phrase binary digits. A bit is the smallest unit of data that a binary computer can recognize. The input you enter via keyboard, the software program you use to play your music collection, the term paper stored on your computer, and the digital photos located on your mobile phone are all just groups of bits. A bit by itself typically represents only a fraction of a piece of data. 8 bits grouped together are collectively referred to as a byte. A named collection of bytes that represent something such as a written document, a computer program, a digital photo, a song, or virtually any other type of data is called a file. Because the number of bytes needed to represent a file can be in the thousands or millions of bytes, prefixes are commonly used with the term byte to represent larger amounts of data. So a kilobyte is equal to 1024 bytes, but is usually thought of as 1,000. A megabyte is 1,000,000 bytes, gigabyte is 1,000,000,000 bytes, terabytes 1,000,000,000,000, petabyte is 1,000 terabytes, an exabyte is 1,000 petabytes, zettabyte is about 1,000 exabytes, and a yottabyte is about 1,000 zettabytes. You'll hear megabyte and kilobyte, megabyte and gigabyte a lot. Terabyte is coming into play more and more. Then we move on to the system unit, and it's the main case of your computer. It houses the computer's processing hardware as well as a few other devices such as storage devices, the power supply, and cooling fans. Alright, and this shows a typical desktop machine, the tower machines, the insides the typical system unit. Alright, a motherboard. A circuit board is a thin board containing computer chips and other electronic components. Computer chips are very small pieces of silicon or other semiconducting material that contain integrated circuits, which are collections of electronic circuits containing microscopic pathways that electrical currents can travel along, and transistors, which are switches controlling the flow of electrons along those pathways. The main circuit board inside your system is called the motherboard. All devices used with the computer need to be connected via wired or wirelessly to the motherboard. Typically, external devices such as monitors, keyboards, mice, and printers connect to the motherboard by plugging into a port. A port is a special connector accessible through the exterior of the system unit case that is used to connect an external hardware device. The port is either built into the motherboard or created with an expansion card inserted into an expansion slot on the motherboard. Wireless external devices typically use a transceiver that plugs into a port on the computer to transmit data between the wireless device and the motherboard, or they use wireless networking technology such as Bluetooth that is built into your motherboard. The power supply inside a desktop computer connects to the motherboard to deliver electricity to the computer. Portable computers also always contain a rechargeable battery pack to power the computer when it's not connected to a power outlet, as well as an external power supply adapter that connects the computer to a power outlet to recharge the battery when needed. All right, it talks here about non-removable batteries, which make portable computer and mobile devices lighter. However, they are difficult and expensive to replace if they fail. So it is not usually worth the trouble and expense to replace them in mobile devices. As a result, discarding mobile phones and other electronics are creating a growing amount of e-waste worldwide. Alright, the CPU, or the Central Processing Unit, is a computer chip that performs the calculations and comparisons needed for processing. It also controls the computer's operations. The CPU is the main processing device for a computer and is often considered the brain of the computer, and it's housed on your motherboard. Most CPUs today are multi-core, which are CPUs that contain the processing components or cores of multiple independent processors in a single CPU. Multi-core CPUs allow computers to work on more than one task simultaneously, such as burning a DVD while surfing the web, as well as work faster within a single application. The one measurement of processing speed is your CPU clock speed, which measures the number of instructions that can be processed per second. Clock speed is typically rated in megahertz or gigahertz. A CPU with a higher clock speed can process more instructions per second than the same CPU with a lower clock speed. Although clock speed is important to computer performance, factors such as number of cores, the amount of RAM and cache memory, the speed of external storage devices, and the bus width and bus speed greatly affect the overall processing speed of the computer. As a result, computers are beginning to be classified less by clock speed and more by the computer's overall processing speed and performance. A computer word is the amount of data, typically measured in bits or bytes, that a CPU can manipulate at one time. Today, most CPUs are 64-bit processors, which means that they can simultaneously process 64 bits or 8 bytes at one time. Alright, cache memory is a special group of very fast memory circuitry located on or close to the CPU that is used to speed up processing by storing data instructions that may be needed next by the CPU in handy locations. When cache memory is full and the CPU calls for additional data or a new instruction, the system overwrites as much data in cache memory as is needed to make room for the new data instructions. This allows data instructions that are most likely still needed to remain in cache memory. In a computer, memory is chips located inside the system unit that the computer uses to store data and instructions while it is working with them. RAM, or random access memory, is used to store the essential parts of the operating system while the computer is running, as well as the programs and data that the computer is currently using. The term memory in reference to computers usually means RAM. A couple things you need to remember about RAM is volatile memory. What is stored in RAM while you're working in RAM is lost if you turn the computer off or the computer loses power. So that's why we always tell you to save often when you're working on assignments, because if you don't save it and you lose power of the computer, or the computer shuts off for some reason, or you turn it off accidentally, you've lost whatever's in RAM, so you have to start over because it is volatile memory. RAM capacity is measured in bytes. The amount of RAM that can be installed in a computer system depends on the CPU in that computer and the operating system being used. So you have to check the requirements of your motherboard and your operating system when you're going to install or upgrade RAM. Alright, a register is a high-speed memory built into the CPU that temporarily stores data during processing. Registers are used by the CPU to store data and intermediary results temporarily during your processing. Registers are the fastest type of memory used by the CPU, even faster than L1 cache. Alright, ROM consists of non-volatile chips that permanently store data or programs. Like RAM, these chips are attached to the motherboard inside the system unit, and the data or programs are retrieved by the computer as they're needed. An important difference, however, is that you can neither write over the data or programs in ROM chips, which is the reason ROM chips are called read-only, nor erase their content when you shut off the computer's power. Traditionally, ROM was used to store permanent instructions used by a computer, and it was referred to as firmware. Flash memory consists of non-volatile memory chips that the user or computer can use for storage. Flash memory chips have begun to replace ROM for storing system information such as computer's BIOS or basic input-output system. the sequence of instructions the computer follows as it is booting up. For instance, one of the computer's first activities when you turn on the power is to perform a power on self-test or post. The post takes an inventory of system components, checks each component to see if it's functioning properly, and initializes system settings, which produces the beeps you may hear as your computer boots. Traditionally, the instructions for post were stored in ROM. By storing the information in flash memory instead of ROM, however, the BIOS information can be updated as needed, because it can be rewritten, whereas ROM cannot. Alright. Expansion slots are locations on the motherboard in which expansion cards can be inserted to connect those cards to the motherboard. Expansion cards are circuit boards that are used to give desktop and to a limited extent notebooks or laptops computers additional capabilities, such as connecting the computer to a network, to add a TV tuner to allow you to watch and record television shows on the computer, to add a hard drive to computer, or to connect a monitor to the computer. One of your most common expansion cards is new graphic cards or sound cards. Those are highly common expansion cards. Alright, a bus is an electronic path over which data can travel. Buses are located within the CPU to move data between CPU components. A variety of buses are also etched onto the motherboard to tie the CPU to memory and to peripheral devices. The number of bits being transmitted at one time depends on the bus width, which is the number of wires in the bus over which data can travel. The bus speed is also a very important factor because the bus width and bus speed together determine the bus's throughput or bandwidth, which is the amount of data that can be transferred via the bus in a given time period. The buses that connect peripheral devices to the motherboard are often called expansion buses. They connect directly to ports on the system unit case or to expansion slots on the motherboard. One of the more versatile bus architectures is the Universal Serial Bus, or USB. I think we've all used USB flash drives. They work via an expansion slot on the motherboard. FireWire, or IEEE 1394, is a high-speed bus standard developed by Apple for connecting devices, particularly multimedia devices like digital video cameras, to your computer. So those are a couple of common expansion buses. Alright. As already mentioned, ports are the connectors located on the exterior of the system unit that are used to connect external hardware devices. Each port is attached to the appropriate bus on the motherboard so that when a device is plugged into a port, the device can communicate with the CPU and other computer components. This is monitors, mouses, printers, external hard drives, all of those scanners. All those things can be connected externally to the motherboard through these ports. Most computers today support the plug-and-play standard, which means the computer automatically configures new devices as soon as they're installed and the computer is powered up. If you want to add a new device to your desktop computer and a port is available for the device you want to add, then you just plug it in. However, you should shut down the computer first unless the device uses a USB or FireWire port. USB and FireWire devices are hot swappable, meaning they can be plugged into their respective ports while the computer is powered up. Hot swappable devices are recognized by the computer as soon as they're connected to it. Other devices are recognized by the computer when the computer is first powered up after the device has been added. So some items are not recognized unless it runs through the post, and post identifies that hardware device during your boot process. And then some devices like your USB port and FireWire ports can be detected as soon as it's plugged in. That's what that's saying. Alright, the next little section on how the CPU works, again, I don't think that's relevant for this class. So we're going to skip over that little section and how the system clock machine cycles work. Like I said, that's more for computer majors, and you'll get that in another class if you're a computer major. Alright, we're going to go on to storage systems. All storage systems involve two physical parts, your storage medium and your storage device. So let's talk about this a little bit. When you first create a document on a computer, both the program you are using to create the document and the document itself are temporarily stored in RAM, which is volatile memory. If the program is closed, both are erased from RAM. Consequently, anything that needs to be preserved for future use must be stored in a permanent storage medium. Storage systems make it possible to save programs, data, and processing results for later use. They provide non-volatile storage so that when the power is shut off, the data stored on the storage medium remains intact. All storage systems involve two physical parts: your storage medium, which is the hardware where data is actually stored, and its corresponding storage device, which is the storage medium that is inserted to be read from or written to. So your storage medium may be your optical drive, your CD drive, and your storage device will be the actual CD that you're placing the information on. With the exception of computers designed to use only network storage devices, virtually all personal computers come with a hard drive that is used to store most programs and data. Internal hard drives are located inside the system unit and are not designed to be removed unless they are being repaired or replaced. External drives typically connect to a computer via USB or FireWire and are frequently used for additional storage, to move files between computers, and for backup purposes. Most hard drives are magnetic. Magnetic hard drives contain one or more metal hard disks or platters that are coated with a magnetizable substance. These hard disks are permanently sealed inside the hard drive case, along with the rewrite heads used to store and retrieve data, and an access mechanism used to move the rewrite heads in and out over the surface of the disk. One hard drive usually contains a stack of several hard disks. If so, there is a rewrite head for each hard disk surface, and these heads move in and out over the disk surfaces simultaneously. That shows a typical hard drive, what an actual hard drive looks like. A newer type of hard drive is a solid-state drive, also called a flash memory hard drive, which is a hard drive that uses flash memory technology instead of spinning hard disk platters and magnetic technology. Consequently, data is stored as electrical charges on flash memory media, and solid-state drives have no moving parts. Typically, in the past, they have been more expensive than a regular magnetized hard drive, but they're becoming more common and more affordable. The total time that it takes for a hard drive to read or write data is called your disk access time, and it requires the following: the seek time, which is the read-write heads move to the cylinder that contains the desired data. Rotational delay: the hard disk rotates into the proper position so that the read-write heads are located over the part of the cylinder to be used. And the data movement time: the data moves such as reading the data from the hard disk and transferring it to memory, or transfer of memory and is stored on the hard disk. A typical disk access time is around 8.5 milliseconds. Alright. Optical discs are thin circular discs made out of polycarbonate substrate, essentially a type of very strong plastic, that are topped with layers of other materials and coatings used to store data and protect the disk. Data on optical disc is stored and read optically using laser beams. Data can be stored on one or both sides of the optical disc depending on the disc design, and some types of disc are multiple recording layers on each side of the disc to increase capacity. Optical discs are designed to be read by optical drives such as CD, DVD, and Blu-ray drives, and the type of optical drive being used must support the type of optical disc that you are using. Alright, flash memory is a chip-based storage medium that represents data using electrical charges. Embedded flash memory refers to memory chips embedded into products. Flash memory is also increasingly being integrated into mobile devices, such as small tablet computers and smartphones. Although embedded flash memory can take the form of small solid-state drives, or memory cards, it is increasingly being implemented with small standalone chips. One of the most common types of flash memory media is the flash memory card, a small rectangular card containing one or more flash memory chips, a controller chip, other electrical components, and metal contacts to connect the card to the device or reader with which it is being used. Flash memory cards are available in a variety of formats. These formats are not interchangeable, so the type of flash memory card used on the device is determined by the type of flash media card that the device can accept. Flash memory cards are the most common type of storage media for digital cameras, portable digital media players, mobile phones, and other portable devices. USB flash drives, also known as jump drives, thumb drives, flash memory drives, consist of flash memory media integrated into a self-contained unit that connects to a computer or other device via a standard USB port and is powered by the USB port. And there in that picture it shows you lots of different flash drives, the way they can look. They can be the wristbands, they can be on a card, they can be the little conventional drives that you pick up at Walmart. Alright, now we're going to talk about remote storage just a little bit. It refers to using a storage device that is not connected directly to the user's computer. Instead, the device is accessed through a local network or through the internet. Using a remote storage device via a local network works in much the same way as using local storage, which is storage that is attached to your computer. To read data from or write data to a remote storage device, the user just selects it and then performs the necessary task in the usual fashion. Network storage is common in businesses. It is also used by individuals with home networks for backup purposes or to share files with another computer. Remote storage devices accessed via the internet are often referred to as online storage or cloud storage. Although these terms are often used interchangeably, some view cloud storage as a specific type of online storage that can be accessed on demand by various web applications. Most online applications such as Google Docs, Facebook, and Flickr provide online storage for their services. There are also sites whose primary objective is to allow users to store documents online, such as Box.net or Windows Live SkyDrive. There's also Dropbox. Typically, online cloud storage sites are password protected and allow users to specify uploaded files as private or as shared, that designated how individuals can access your files. There it talks a little bit more about storing documents in the cloud. I'll let you guys read through that on your own, and if you have questions you can let me know. A smart card is a credit card sized piece of plastic that contains computer security and components, typically a processor, memory, and storage. Smart cards store a relatively small amount of data. Smart cards are commonly used for national and student ID cards, credit and debit cards, and cards that store identification data for accessing facilities or computer networks. Alright, we're going to skip this section on RAID and large server systems and that kind of thing. If you guys are interested, you can read through it on your own, and if you have questions you can let me know. Alright, so we're going to talk about input devices a little bit. An input device is any piece of equipment that is used to enter data into the computer. Keyboards, pointing devices, touch devices, scanners, audio input. So most computers today are designed to be used with a keyboard, and a device containing keys used to enter characters on the screen. I think everybody's used a keyboard. Pointing devices are used to select and manipulate objects, to input certain types of data, such as handwritten data, and to issue commands to the computer. The mouse is the most common pointing device for a desktop computer. But you also have the stylus or the digital pen and the trackball. Here it shows some pointing devices. You got your game pads and your joysticks, your steering wheels. You have your gaming devices there. Touch screens allow the user to touch the screen with your finger as a pointing device to select commands or otherwise provide input to the computer associated with the touch screen. A touchpad is a rectangular pad across which a finger or thumb slides to move the on-screen pointer. Tapping the touchpad typically performs clicks and other mouse actions. Anybody that's used a laptop's familiar with a touchpad. Anybody with a smartphone is familiar with touchscreens. And if you have a tablet, most of them have touchscreens. Alright, a scanner captures an image of an object, usually a flat object such as a printed document, photograph, or drawing in digital form, and then transfers that data to a computer. The quality of scanned images is indicated by optical resolution, usually measured in the number of pixels per inch. A barcode is an optical code that represents data with bars of varying widths or heights. A lot of your smartphones now have these barcode readers where you can scan and it gives you information about the product. Radio frequency identification is a technology that can store, read, and transmit data located in RFID tags. And these tags contain tiny chips and radio antennas that can be attached to objects such as products, price tags, shipping labels, ID cards, and more. The data in the tags is read by the RFID readers. Other types of readers include your optical mark reader, which inputs data from special forms to score or tally the data on those forms. You have your optical character recognition, which refers to the ability of a computer to recognize text characters. Here it shows you the optical readers. It shows you a Scantron, like some people have taken tests with the Scantrons, where they can be scanned in and get the information that way. A lot of banks are now using these kind of readers to scan your checks, and it gets the information on the check as to your name and your account number and that kind of thing. Other types of readers include biometric, which used to read biometric data about a person so that the individual's identity can be verified. These can be fingerprints, retinal scans, and that kind of thing. Audio input is the process of entering audio data into your computer. Speech recognition systems enable the computer to recognize voice input as spoken words and require appropriate software. Music input systems are used to create an original music composition or arrangement or to create a custom CD. Microphones, of course, would be an audio input device. Okay, output accepts processed data from a computer and presents it back in a readable form or an acceptable form to the user, either in audio or written. You have your display devices, you have your multimedia projectors, printers, and audio output devices. The most common form of output device is your display device, your monitor or your screen, and it presents output visually and in a form that we can read. It turns that binary back into something that we can read. Most computers today use the thinner and lighter flat panel displays. Display devices that use electrically charged chemicals or gases to display images. There it gives you some examples: liquid crystal, light emitting or LED, and plasma. A data projector is used to display output from a computer to a wall or projection screen. They're freestanding units, permanently mounted or can be permanently mounted into the ceiling. You have your iPod docks, your hologram projectors. Those are some examples. Instead of temporary, ever-changing soft copies, outside that a monitor produces, printers produce a hard copy, which is a permanent copy on paper. And then it gives you some things there: the 3D printer, the barcode printer, inkjet printers, laser printers. We're not going to go into the functionality of all those different kinds of printers, but just know a printer is an output device. And then you have your audio devices. Headphones would be an audio device that receives outputs, so with speakers. And they take the processed information from the computer and output it as sounds that we can understand. Okay, so that concludes the hardware chapter in your book. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me and I will get back to you as quick as I can.